We are inching closer day by day to the Senate trial of Donald Trump following his historic second impeachment. Now, there was an attempt to stop it entirely. Rand Paul, he tried to force a vote on the constitutionality of impeaching the former president. That was tabled. Paul's motion was killed on a 55-45 vote, with 5 Republicans joining all of the Democrats, meaning that 45 Republicans voted for Paul's effort. Now, he says, Rand Paul, that the fact that 45 Republicans sided with him shows that impeachment is dead on arrival. And here's his argument. If you voted that it was unconstitutional, then how in the world would you ever hope to convict somebody for this? That 45 of us, almost the entire caucus, 95% of the caucus, voted that the whole proceeding was unconstitutional. This is a big victory for us. Democrats can beat this partisan horse as long as they want. This vote indicates it's over. The trial is all over. I would say in terms of metaphor, I wouldn't talk about beating a horse to death because we are trying to convict him over him sending people to the Capitol where they beat a cop to death. So I would choose the words just a little bit more carefully since that mob was murderous, Rand Paul. By the way, Rand Paul, they don't love you. You think that if they'd run across you, you would have fared well in that, but he's moving past it. Hey, maybe it shows that he's able to rise above concerns for things like democracy or his own life. But anyway, JR, he does have a point. 45 Republicans did apparently think that it's unconstitutional to impeach or I guess convict based on impeachment of the former president.
Yeah, 45 Republicans are still on board with Rand Paul, including, by the way, I'm sure you mentioned Mitch McConnell, who many people believed had this potential opportunity to come out and convict Trump because they're battling factions, they're warring against each other. Mitch McConnell's people said they're going to declare war on Trump's people because look, he lost his power when he sabotaged the Georgia runoffs, which, as we know, took most of Mitch McConnell's power. Mitch McConnell always has power because for some reason people listen to him when he has none. But so this whole battle that's been put forward actually didn't ever really happen. So the people who thought that these Republicans would have this awakening and suddenly realize that Trump is out of power and Trump potentially doesn't have any more of his bully pulpit and he can't tell them what to do and he can't tweet about them to ruin their chances because there's not an election right now, by the way. All these things I want people to start noticing. There's no more, I'm worried because Trump is in office and I wanna make sure I'm still there to be the guiding light, the normal Republican there. There's no more, I'm just scared of Donald Trump because his supporters are rabid. There's, I guess maybe that's the one thing that is left, but he's not really able to motivate and push them the same way he did before. That's why he's so upset about losing his voice on Twitter and not having these platforms to continue to rally. He said before, when I rally, I get a chance to rile you guys up. So that's what he likes to do. So we see 45 Republicans who still prove the point that Donald Trump was just another character in their same party that likes to do these things. He was just one that wasn't able to hide it as well as Rand Paul was able to. So now Rand Paul can't hide it as well either because now he has to follow behind the guy who's openly and explicitly anti-American. Now they all are.
Yeah, and Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell was gonna take a brave stand. Even if he'd voted for it, it wouldn't be a brave stand. It would be like an attempt to stop Trump from controlling the party or whatever. But look, we can roll the tape. We can't because we don't have it. But in theory, someone could get it and then we could roll it. Yeah, I was always really, I don't know, is pessimistic the word? Cynical, I guess. Not sold on the idea that Mitch McConnell was gonna, or regardless of Mitch McConnell, because Mitch McConnell at least has a sort of institutional pragmatic reason to do it, maybe, but that 17 would support it. I was never convinced about that. Never. And I could be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. Quote me if I'm proven wrong. But Rand Paul does have a point. The point isn't exactly what he thinks it is. I would say the point is that even Trump engaging in a months-long attempt to extrajudiciously overthrow the election, speaking positively about militia members who tried to kidnap a governor, sending people to the Capitol, people dying as a result of it, people going to the Capitol, having said online that they want to assassinate leaders. All of that is only enough to potentially sway a couple of Republicans. So Rand Paul is right that nothing can get through to them and that partisanship is what is driving this, just not exactly in the direction that he seems to think it is. Oh, and also, as many people have pointed out, his math is terrible. It's not 95%, it's 90%, but it's Rand Paul. What do you expect?
It doesn't matter. No one has to pay attention to that. Remember those times the Republicans always said we have to go after the leaders of terror organizations because they recruit and they'll build up their power. We have to make sure we don't negotiate with terrorists. All those things that say about terrorists and terrorist groups and leaders. This guy's one of them. They came actually towards you guys this time. And so the degree to which they don't really care about violence, anger, insurrection in our country is just it's put on full display here. So even if you're afraid of the MAGA folks that went to attack the country, that means you're afraid of terrorists. So that's why you don't want to use the term. That's why they used it over and over and over and over and over again when it was foreign-born terrorists that were doing these things. The reason they did that is because they want to make sure there's this differentiation between the two. So if we start calling this guy what he is, then we can no longer continue to heap that negative term on other folks only because they're the only terrorists in the world. Not that they're not horrible folks for doing the violence that they do, but there's violence that can cross these types of lines. And it starts to take down this veneer of America being this bastion of freedom and everyone is such a patriot, perfect person that loves our democracy. There are many Americans that want nothing to do with our democracy, want nothing to do with it. And many of them are elected officials and they just voted and told you that. So this whole thing I think it's obvious that the lines are drawn over what kind of terrorists are scary and what kind aren't. And they're only scary here if they push you to do the wrong thing, which Rand Paul is very happy to do.
Yeah, and it reminds me of during the actual impeachment vote, the anonymous Republicans saying, I want to vote to impeach him, but I'm worried about being killed, which is sort of the problem. But again, Rand Paul doesn't care about that.
Not realizing how bad that is.
Exactly, or that's not going away, and that you refusing to take a stand is not going to help it to go away. Yeah, it's we'll see. The trial will get underway. Maybe there will be things that'll happen during the trial that will sway 12 additional Republicans to convict Trump. I'm not betting all my money on it. I'm saving my money for GameStop. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.